everyone, this is Yoan and welcome back to a new video. In this episode, we're gonna make a school lunchbox. This has been a project that I've been wanting to do for a while now, but for some reason I just keep on putting it off. Finally, I woke up one morning and decided to just go ahead and make it. And I'm very happy with the result, and even my son loves it, and he actually picked his own fabric for this, and yeah, very excited to take it to school. The finished measurements are about 9.5 inch by 7.5 inch by 3.5 inch deep. It comes with a front zipper pocket, roomy interior with a mesh zipper pocket. This one is great for an ice pack or additional snacks perhaps. The zipper closure opens wide for easy access, which is very important for kids. And there's also a handle here. Now let's talk about the fabric. For the exterior fabric, I use canvas fabric. For the lining fabric, I use the PUL fabric or polyurethane laminate fabric. I love this fabric particularly for this project because it is waterproof, not too heavy, it doesn't fray, and pretty easy to work with. Now to make the lunchbox insulated, you will need an insulated batting and also a little bit of foam stabilizer, which we will apply just to the back and to the bottom of the lunchbox to give this a structure. Before you get started, make sure to go get the pattern at YoanSewingStudio.com. I will put the link somewhere in the description box down below. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Alright guys, the first thing that you want to do is to print out the PDF pattern, match the alphabet eclipse there, fold back or cut one of the pages margin, and then slide the other page behind it. Match all the lines and make sure that there is no overlapping, and then tape to secure them. Cut all the pieces according to the cutting instructions. Prepare the zipper for the front zipper pocket. Cut 2 pieces of fabric for the zipper tabs. Fold one zipper tab panel in half widthwise, just like that. Position that on one side of the zipper. Make sure that the raw edges match the edges of the zipper. Now you want to secure with a sewing clip and then stitch along the edges of the zipper tab to secure it in place. Repeat the same to the opposite side. Trim off the excess zipper under the zipper tab down to about 1/4 inch. Lay the lower front exterior right side up and then stick a basting tape along the top edges there. You want to use an 1/8 inch wide basting tape here. Lay the zipper right side down. Now stick a basting tape along the edges of the zipper, just like that. Now take the pocket panel and lay that right side down. Make sure to match the top and the side edges. And once everything is secured, you want to stitch this with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Finger press the seams, both the exterior and the interior. Push the fabric down as further as you can and then top stitch. Now PUL fabric tend to be quite slippery, so as you do the top stitching, you may want to check underneath every now and then just to make sure that there is no excess pleat. Now stick a basting tape along the top edge of the lower panel. Now take the upper exterior panel, lay that right side down, matching the bottom edge with the top edge of the lower panel. Flip this to the wrong side. Stick a basting tape along the top edge there. Bring the bottom edge of the pocket panel towards the top, matching the edges of course, and then stitch with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once you've done that, flip the upper panel towards the right side, finger press, and top stitch. Base stitch along the side edges with about an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Trim off any excess pocket fabric around the corners there. Take the insulated batting and lay that on the wrong side of the front exterior, matching all the edges. Secure with some sewing clips and then base stitch all around with about an 1/8 inch seam allowance. For the back exterior, we're gonna add a foam stabilizer. This will create structure for the lunchbox. So you will need a double-sided fusible foam stabilizer. And then what we're gonna do, we're just gonna sandwich the foam stabilizer in between the back exterior panel and the insulated batting. Make sure that the foam is centered, just like that. And then we're gonna fuse this according to the manufacturer's instructions. Now, if what you have is the single-sided one, it's no problem. So what you wanna do, you wanna fuse the foam stabilizer to the back exterior panel. Once you've done that, you wanna layer the insulated batting, and then you can base stitch all around to secure it. Alright guys, here I've already fused my foam stabilizer and batting. Next, if you want, you can quilt this as desired. Next, we're gonna work on the mesh zipper pocket. So you wanna prepare the upper and the lower zipper pocket panel, and then we're gonna attach the zipper in between. With the lower panel facing right side up, you wanna lay the zipper right side down. Secure with some sewing clips. You don't want to use basting tape for this, and then stitch this in place with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once you've done that, flip this to the right side, finger press the seams, and then top stitch. Next, with the lower panel facing right side up, you want to take the upper panel and lay that right side down. Match the bottom edge of the upper panel with the zipper tape. Secure with some sewing clips, and then stitch with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once you've done that, flip to the right side, finger press, and top stitch. Move the zipper pull slightly towards the center, and then stitch right at the start of the zipper, and then you want to trim off any excess zipper. Lay the front interior panel right side up, and then take the mesh pocket panel and lay that wrong side down. Pin to secure them in place, and then base stitch all around with 1/8 inch seam allowance. Lay the back exterior and the back interior panels wrong sides together, and then base stitch all around with 1/8 inch seam allowance. Now, if there's any excess fabric, just trim that off. We want to make sure that everything is nice and even. Alright, next we're gonna work on the zipper gusset. So let's prepare the zipper. You will need a double pull zipper, also size 5, at least 28 inches long. Let's prepare the zipper gusset panel. So you wanna cut one exterior, one interior, and one insulated batting that you cut smaller. Position the insulated batting on the wrong side of the exterior panel. Center the position. You can pop a few pins to temporarily hold this together. And then you want to quilt this panel to secure the batting. I started by stitching a straight line right on the center, and then add another line of stitching about 1 inch away from the center point. So this is how my gusset panel looks like. Okay, now we're gonna make the zipper sandwich to attach the gusset. So on the right side of the zipper, you wanna stick a basting tape along the edges of the zipper tape. Remove the top paper layer off. Now take the exterior gusset panel, lay that right side down. Now flip the zipper to the wrong side, stick a basting tape along the edges, and then lay the lining panel right side down. Make sure to match all the edges, and then stitch with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now let's flip this to the right side. Make sure to finger press the seams, both the exterior and the interior. Match the bottom edges and then pop a few pins there. And then top stitch. Remove the pins at the bottom, and then you want to measure from the edges of the zipper 4.5 inch, and then trim off the excess fabric. Now repin the bottom edges again, and then base stitch the sides and the bottom with about 1/8 inch seam allowance. Trim off the excess zipper, and that's it. The zipper gusset is done. So we're gonna call the zipper side as the front side of the gusset and the opposite side as the back side. Next, we're gonna work on the handle. So you wanna cut a piece of rectangle. First, you wanna fold the short side towards the wrong side, about 1/2 inch, and then press. Repeat the same to the opposite side. Fold this in half lengthwise, and then press. Now open the fold, and then fold the long sides towards the center fold crease, and then press, and then fold this one more time, and then press. So you should end up with something like this. Now top stitch all around the edges. Now fold the zipper gusset panel in half widthwise, and then you want to mark the center point. Snip the edges about 1/8 inch or so, both sides. If you want, you can draw a straight line right on the center point. This will make it much more obvious. Make sure to use disappearing fabric marker. Now let's fold this lengthwise, matching the marked center point. And then using a fabric marker, you wanna mark the center just like that. Fold the handle in half and then mark the center point. Position the handle on the right side of the zipper gusset panel, matching the center point of the handle with the center point of the gusset. Now you can pin to secure it for now. Mark the edges of the handle, just like so. And then once you've done that, scooch the edge of the handle towards the center about 1/2 inch from the mark line. Pin to secure it and then repeat the same to the opposite side. Now from the edge of the handle, you want to measure 1 inch and then draw a straight line across to mark it, of course with your fabric marker, and then do the same to the opposite side. And then we're gonna stitch this handle. Make a rectangle following the marking line with an X in the middle to make this sturdier. And of course you want to do the same to the opposite side. Now for the bottom base, we're gonna add an additional layer of the foam stabilizer. So just like before, if you've got double-sided foam, you can just sandwich the foam in between the exterior panel and the batting, and then fuse this in place, and then quilt. Lay the bottom gusset lining right side up and then lay the zipper gusset wrong side down. Match the edges, of course. Now take the bottom exterior gusset and lay that right side down. Pin to secure them and then stitch with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once you've done that, flip this to the right side. Make sure to press the seams and then top stitch. Now we're gonna work the same to the opposite side. So here I've got the gusset facing right side up. Bring the exterior panel towards the opposite edge. Match the edges and then pin to hold this for now. Now we're gonna bring this lining towards the opposite edge right there. So what you wanna do, you wanna roll the zipper gusset just like that. So you should have enough room now to bring the bottom gusset towards the opposite edge. Now let's pin to secure this and then stitch with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once you've done that, you wanna flip this to the right side, finger press the seams, and then top stitch. Once you've done that, base stitch along the side edges of the bottom gusset with 1/8 inch seam allowance. Mark the center point of the bottom gusset, so match the seams just like that, and then snip about 1/8 inch or so. You wanna do this both sides. Now since we've already marked the center point of zipper gusset, you don't have to do it again. Next we're gonna find the center point of the side. So you wanna match the center point of the zipper and the bottom gusset, just like that. And then snip the edges right along the fold on both sides. Mark the center point of the front and back panel. So simply fold this in half and then snip or mark it with fabric marker. You want to do this for the top, bottom, and the sides. We're gonna first attach the gusset panel to the front panel. Match the center point of the front zipper panel with the center point of the top front panel and then pin. Now match the center points of the front bottom gusset with the bottom of the front panel and then pin. Next you wanna match the center point of the front side gusset with the center point of the side front panel and then pin, and then repeat the same to the opposite side. Now that we've already pinned all the 4 center points together, you want to continue pinning all around except of the corners. Next we're going to hand base all the corners. So first you want to snip the edges of the gusset about 1/8 inch so that the fabric will be nice and relaxed. Grab a hand sewing needle and a thread and then hand base along the corner there with simple running stitches. And if you can't get all the way to the corner, that's totally fine. The gusset panel is purposely designed to be a slight smaller to give you wiggle room if there is a little bit of mistake. So you want to hand base all the 4 corners, and once you've done that, you want to go ahead and stitch this all around with 1/4 inch seam allowance. So with the gusset facing up, this should be pretty straightforward. Trim off any excess fabric around the corners. Now repeat to attach the back panel to the opposite side or the back side of the gusset, exactly the same way. Again, you want to trim off the excess fabric around the corners, make them all nice and even. And then we're going to do the last step of this project, which is binding the raw edges. If you use PL fabric, which doesn't fray and has stretch to it, making the binding for this is obviously different, but it's in some ways much simpler. So all you need to do is to cut 1-inch strips. So this should be the direction of the stretch. As an alternative, you can use pre-made bias tape. I recommend to use single fold bias tape 3/4 of an inch wide, which will be perfect for this. If you choose this route, you may follow the binding tutorial that I share on Bitsy Bag project. I will put the link somewhere in the description box down below. Now let's start binding the raw edges. Position the binding strip on the main panel side, matching the edges of course. I like to start from the bottom center here. Secure with a sewing clip. You want to start stitching about 2 to 3 inches from the start of the binding. Stitch all around to attach the binding, and you want to use about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Stop stitching about 2 to 3 inches from the starting point. Next, you want to overlap the strip by 3/8 of an inch. I'm just going to eyeball it, but if you want to, you can obviously precisely mark it. Now let's pinch the fabric underneath here to give you wiggle room. Secure with a sewing clip. With the right sides facing, sew the strips together with 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. Once you've done that, you want to continue stitching to finish attaching the binding. Now fold the binding over towards the gusset side so that the binding will be hugging the raw edges, and then secure with some sewing clips. And you want to do this all around. Once you've done that, stitch along the edges there to finish the binding. So you want to sew with the main panel facing up. You want to make sure that your stitching will catch also the binding underneath, because it's very easy for the strip to roll up. So every so often you want to check underneath, because we want the binding to be attached securely. Alright, my binding turns out not too bad. Now let's bind the remaining raw edges the same way. And there you have it guys, the lunchbox is done. Now you can turn this right side out, poke the corners, make them nice and neat, and voila! So thank you so much for watching. I hope your project turns out great, and until next time, goodbye!